Kate Osama.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, for calling me to speak in this very important debate. And I associate myself with the remarks of my honourable friends for Hampstead and Kilburn and Felton and Heston. I welcome the government bringing forward measures to protect access to cash and will use my speech to express my constituents' concerns on access to cash. Madam Deputy Speaker, in Edmonton, between 2018 and 2021, a third of our free-to-use ATMs disappeared. I received correspondence from my constituents telling me how the closure of banks and the lack of free ATMs is putting a strain on them. Madam Deputy Speaker, the importance of using cash on a regular basis remains for millions of people simply the best way to budget more effectively. Those facing digital exclusion or physical impediments who are disproportionately elderly will continue using cash. And I am not alone when I say this. The Financial Lives 2020 survey found that around 2.4 million people aged 65 years and over in the UK relied on cash to a great extent in their day-to-day life, representing around 1 in 5, which is 21% of all older people. Also, small to medium-sized businesses like hairdressers, barbers, nail shops survive off regular, frequent, small cash transactions. When I think about the small businesses in Edmonton, like my hairdressers, Debbie's, who did my hair for me, thank you, or the nail salon, these businesses only take cash from customers. Small to medium-sized businesses simply cannot afford to run a card machine. Common charges include transaction fees between 1% to 3% per sale, authorisation fees costing between 1p to 3p per sale, merchant service fees between 0.25% up to 0.35%. Madam Deputy Speaker, Edmonton is one of the most cash-deprived areas in the country. I do welcome the measures to empower the FCA to ensure designated bodies must continue to provide reasonable access to cash, as are powers to potentially stop the closure of certain cash access points if there is no alternative nearby. But to truly address this looming issue, we must acknowledge that attachment to cash has been much stronger within more deprived communities. Along with age, this is the greatest factor in continued use. Admittedly, rates of withdrawing cash have fallen off a cliff in wealthier constituencies, but during the COVID crisis, cash withdrawals only fell by a quarter in less affluent areas. This figure would only increase if the removed free ATMs were all replaced, but not with pay-to-use machines. With a regular fee of £1.75 just to withdraw cash from a pay-to-use machine, it is a luxury many cannot afford. Yet this bill before us makes no clear commitment to protect free-to-use over pay-to-use machines. The latter, understandably, have much lower use rates, and I do hope the newly appointed Chancellor will instruct the Treasury to see the difference and make it clear and make sure the cash access policy, make sure that all of that is in there. Excuse me, Madam Deputy Speaker. We are also still waiting for the government to define the meaning of access to cash. Without a clear maximum geographic distance between cash machines, we risk sleepwalking into a situation where cash deserts are commonplace. Also missing from this bill is a provision to ensure sustainable funding for free-to-use machines, which has seen serious strain recently. Providers must be compensated for providing this vital public service. Currently, we risk reaching a threshold whereby huge numbers of more free ATMs become uneconomical and forced to close. The model of funding should also consider the demographics and economic deprivation in any area, which bears a strong relation to the need for cash access. As I draw my comments to a close, This bill could be an important step in determining safeguards to access to cash in the long term. Sadly, what we see is a narrow set of proposals with a lot of details still unconfirmed. In the meantime, there should be a pause on removing more free-to-use ATMs. Otherwise, more of my constituents will further be excluded. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.